Yeah, so the first question is, how would you explain a SOC 2 certification to a newbie? So someone who has never heard of SOC 2 before, but they know that it's probably something important, but they've just never gotten around to looking it up.
Yeah, that's a great question. So SOC 2 is kind of like the gold standard for a security audit, right? It's a security and compliance audit. And so really what it boils down to is it's a series of controls that you agree to abide by on a recurring regular basis, right? And once you identify those controls and then you abide by them, and when you abide by them, that will basically guarantee a certain degree of quality and trustworthiness in your organization, right? So these controls are not just like it's not just like, for example, encryption, right? Like encryption obviously is one of those type of controls typically, but it's really an entire organizational facing system of controls. So everything from confidentiality and the legal ramifications that you need to have as a business operator and for your business in general, to the technology, the security, all this sort of stuff. So it's a very wide, comprehensive review of your entire organization as a whole. And then when you go through that process, so what happens is you identify those controls, you set them up, you abide by them for a certain amount of time, and then you engage with a third-party auditor. And so this is done by a CPA firm. And the CPA firm will go through and they will validate and basically perform tests to ensure that you are indeed actually and accurately complying with the controls that have been defined. And this this audit can be there's two types of audits. There's a SOC 2 type 1. There's a SOC 2 type 2 audit. And the real gold standard is the SOC 2 type 2. The SOC 2 type 1 audit, the difference basically is the SOC 2 type 1, goodness, is that's a kind of a once and done sort of thing. So you're basically saying, we're going to check that on this day, everything was compliant, right? So it's kind of up to a certain date, you're just checking. Whereas the SOC 2 type 2 is a continuous audit. So that you basically would pick a time span. You'll say 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months. And then you'll say, based on that period, the auditors will actually check to make sure you were always in continuous compliance throughout that period. And so the reason the SOC 2 type 2 is the gold standard is because, of course, it covers a much wider, a wider kind of picture, a wider time frame. So it really gives the reviewer of the SOC 2 audit a better understanding and a better feeling of confidence that you are not only compliant just once, but you're always compliant. Right?
And would you say that Alloy got the SOC 2 type 1 or the SOC 2 type 2?
So we've done both, right? So we initially are typically how organizations will do this is they'll get their SOC 2 type 1 initially, right? So when they first engage, or when they first go under the audit process, they'll get that first type 1, and then they'll submit themselves for a longer evaluation process. So we've been doing this for a few years now. So we've done both the type 1 and the type 2, and specifically on the type 2 front, we've gotten the hardest possible type 2. We've done the 12-month audit period, which is the longest audit period you can do. So as I mentioned, there are some shorter periods like 3 months, 6 months, I think even 9 months. We've done the full 12 months. So that is the true gold standard.
Amazing. And what does that translate into? Does that mean that every 12 months you get audited again, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's a continuous process. So so every 12 months you have to go in and you submit yourself for an audit. And so what will typically happen is you'll retain an auditing firm, right, the CPA firm, and so you'll retain this independent audit and auditor, and they will they'll just kind of be on an annual cadence with you, right? And so you'll prepare every year for the audit, right? You're always in compliance, of course. And then before the audit period is up. So for example, let's say your audit is from January until December, right? You might say, okay, maybe in September, right, before the December period is up, you're going to say, let's re-engage the auditor, start the process for the next 12 months, and then that that will start to begin, and such that when the next cycle is happening, you're able to have a continuous. There's no lapses in your coverage, so to speak. So you always have the audit going on.
Got it. And why did Alloy decide to get SOC 2 certified?
Yeah, so really the key is for customers, right? So the reality is whenever you're dealing with enterprise customers, because this is the gold standard, right, it is really, really, really important that you have access that you have a SOC 2 certification. It's very, very critical. Many organizations, particularly in the enterprise, won't even talk to you if you don't have this. This is not even it's not even like a nice to have. It's a necessity, so to speak. So specifically when you speak to enterprise, and governments and anyone that's kind of a larger organization, you will need to have this. And increasingly, by the way, we now see more mid-market companies also requiring SOC 2. The funny thing about SOC 2 is that if you're SOC 2 compliant, you have to engage other SOC 2 firms, right? So for example, if you're integrating with like Alloy, your expectation is that Alloy is going to be SOC 2 if you are SOC 2, right? So it's kind of a, I don't know, once you have the certification, it creates more requirements to have other folks with certification as well. That was the foundational thing. And then on top of that, look, the reality is that we feel very strongly about security and compliance at Alloy. We're a multi-layered company with over almost 300 integrations. So for us, security is just so important that regardless of the customers, this is a really, really, really important thing just as a business for us to have and to give us peace of mind.
Amazing. And how long did the process take as well for getting? Well, I mean, now we have the SOC 2 Type 2, which means that it's an ongoing process. But I guess maybe this question will probably be for SOC 2 Type 1, for example. So the initial stage of getting SOC 2 certified, how long did that entire process take from engaging the auditor to finally getting everything?
Yeah. So we did, I think, if I recall correctly, the first one we did was we did the SOC 2 Type 1, right? And so basically kind of, I think it was around 9 months, give or take, to go from nothing, right, in terms of like just starting the process completely, and then actually getting the certification for the SOC 2 Type 1. And what's kind of involved in that is a few things, right? So there's a lot of planning obviously involved, right? There's there's a lot of review of your internal controls. You have to define the controls that you're actually gonna have in the audit, and you work with the auditor on that front. There's just a lot of just kind of due diligence and homework, so to speak, that you have. And then what actually happens is then you engage the auditor, right? And then the auditor, they're in the work every day, they're looking at everything, right? And they're providing you feedback, and then they actually kick off the audit, right? And when the audit gets kicked off, that's when we really, that's crunch time, right? So then you're reviewing everything, you're providing the proof, because what'll happen a lot of times is during that audit, they'll look at the controls and say, great, we're glad you're complying with this, but show me the proof, right? So you'll be gathering that evidence, gathering all that information, providing that to the auditor. And I think our SOC 2 Type 1 was I believe only a 3-month period, right? So we basically did the work for the 3-month period. We got the certification, and then we were done. And then immediately after we got the SOC 2 Type 1, we applied for the continuous, the SOC 2 Type 2. And so then we did a longer period for that. So, it really ranges. I think for the Type 1, again, it was around 9 months or so. And then the Type 2 is a 12-month period. So you can kind of do the math, and it's almost a year and a half in terms of the end-to-end process. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
That's quite cool.
Wow, that sounds like a super stringent process as well. Making sure that like whoever is getting SOC 2 certified actually goes through all of the processes, and making it rigorous also makes other people trust you more, knowing that you've actually gone through such a rigorous process to get this certification. So I think that's important. And today, what does Alloy being SOC 2 certified mean for our customers? Why is it important to them?
Well, like I said before, it's really critical that if you're engaged with enterprises, they require this. This is table stakes for them, right? So that is a really important thing, because what it does is it lets Alloy work with larger enterprises, right? Which builds trust just across the board. That's one thing. Other thing is that it gives our customer peace of mind, right? So that, look, we're not just doing this audit once, we're doing it on a continuous basis. We've met the gold standards, the hardest security. The Type 2 is the hardest security SOC audit to get, right? So we've clearly invested a lot of time and effort in again, not just the security front, but also the business controls front as well, right? And so it gives you, as an organization who's looking to buy Alloy, it gives you the trust that Alloy really is a secure, it is a confident organization that has the right controls in place, so that when you use us to power your integrations, your data is safe.
Yeah, and I think that also goes, the success certification also goes beyond like technology. It also goes into how the entire organization as itself is run, so
It
end to
does.
end. So beyond the
Yes.
technology, also like how maybe different departments talk to each other, how employees' data is managed, how employees can access data for third parties or for companies and things like that. Am I
Mhm.
correct?
That's absolutely correct. Exactly. So like, one example of that, to expand on that for a second, is need to know access, right? So like, a control that a lot of folks have in SOC is who gets access to what kind of data, right? And so obviously, you wouldn't just say, hey, look, everyone in the organization can access this data. There's
Yep.
certain controls, certain requirements, certain access levels that are defined. And so again, that gives organizations peace of mind that not everybody, for example, is going to have access
Yeah.
to the information. It's only certain folks on a need-to-know basis.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. And can potential customers get a copy of our SOC 2 certification? Is this something that we've had customers request in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. So the one caveat is we do require NDA. That is actually a control in and of itself, right? Because a SOC 2 report requires, it discloses a lot of sensitive information about the business and the controls and how the infrastructure works. So we require obviously a signed confidentiality agreement, such that that you won't disclose the secret sauce. But absolutely, we have customers that request that all the time, and we can certainly provide it ahead of time, so as long as they sign that agreement.
Amazing. And is there any other thing that you would like to share around Alloy and our security practices?
No, I mean, I think that look, we're SOC 2 Type 2. We've kind of done a few other things as well, so we've kind of gone through the whole GDPR requirements, which is a whole nother world, and then the CCPA, which is the kind of like the not totally analogous, but you can think of it similar to like GDPR for California, right? So those are two new data laws that have newer data laws, so to speak, that have come into effect in the last 5 or 10 years or so. And those are important to be compliant for. And then we've also kind of gone down the HIPAA process as well, right? So a lot of different regulations, such that Alloy can support a wide range of different data formats, everything from healthcare data to to European Union citizens data and whatnot. So we have a lot of certifications.
Amazing. All right. So thank you for speaking with me today, Greg. And yeah, I hope people find this valuable when they listen back to it.
Awesome.
All
Cool.
right.